Aryan Brotherhood, totally out of control. It appears based on some recent crimes and based on some reporting from inside the prisons. Now, everybody knows the Aryan Brotherhood exists already, right? But they had not been this active in going after government officials in the outside world at this level ever before. So what are we talking about here? Well, recently, Texas District Attorney Mike McLelland and his wife were killed. And just as that was coming on air, there's a new report released that Mike McLelland was shot 20 times. So that is an execution, no question about it. Same people who did the shootings only shot his wife once. So clearly sending a message. Former Texas District Attorney Mark Hasse was killed just under 3 months ago, working on the same cases, indicting the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. Now in Colorado, a different group apparently targeted the prison chief, Tom Clements. Knocked on his door, he answers his door, they shoot him dead. Now that guy we know about because he was later in a shootout and was killed as well, and that's part of the Colorado 211 group. That's also an Aryan group in the Colorado prisons. So now we have an inside source from the prisons that wrote a piece for the Daily Beast, and he has a very interesting perspective on this. He says, for example, 4 people have been killed since the beginning of the year in a series of shootings that appear to be connected to the homegrown jihadists of the Aryan Brotherhood. Jihadists. And they are apparently coming. Now, before I give you more details of what the source inside the prison says, get a load of this. Right before we came on air, and I've never seen this in America, a prosecutor just quit an Aryan Brotherhood case because of security concerns. And it's in Texas. U.S. Attorney Jay Hillman saying, sent out an email to the defense attorney saying, short one saying, because of security concerns, I will no longer be part of this case. That's basically U.S. prosecutors saying no mas in a case. That's unbelievable. By the way, just quick note, think what would happen if it was Muslim jihadis. We would be on terror alert 39. Whatever the maximum is, we'd go 20 above it. If they killed 4 people, involved government officials, DAs, prison officials, if Muslims had done it, oh my God, the whole country would be on fire, but we should be on fire. I can't believe they're killing government officials. And it appears, allegedly, that it's the Aryan Brotherhood. So now, more from inside the prison. America's harsh judicial system, coupled with their growing national affinity for utilizing complete isolation in the supermax prisons as a corrections tactic of first choice, in many cases turns men into monsters. This is really interesting. Now, there's a couple of different factors at play. Yesterday on the current show on the Young Turks, we had Mark Potok from Southern Poverty Law Center, and he said a very ironic thing happened decades ago. When we desegregated the prisons, it created more racial gangs, including the Aryan Brotherhood. And if you're white and you went to prison, well, if you didn't have protection, you were in trouble. It led people more into the Aryan Brotherhood. So they go to prison and they're more likely to become radicalized, and then at some point they get out of prison. And the guys in prison are running huge crime organizations, selling drugs. Apparently meth is the #1 thing that they are selling. And then so when Texas, working with federal prosecutors, indicted 34 of these Aryan Brotherhoods of Texas guys, oh, that's when all of a sudden hell broke loose. Now a lot of them are out of jail. And the second factor is what this former prisoner is talking about. Inside our jail, we are so harsh, so draconian, that we're basically creating monsters and then releasing them into the world. More from that former prisoner. Many of the first men locked up when our nation embarked on a policy for for-profit mass incarceration near the end of the last century are now returning into society. And as predicted by numerous professionals, they are sicker and more dangerous than when they went behind bars. This is a recipe for disaster. Today, again, on the current show, I was talking to a state representative from New Hampshire. He made a terrific point. They're trying to block privatized prisons in New Hampshire, and he said, think about the incentives. He said, now in a public prison, you theoretically want to do some rehabilitation. Now, that's been a theory and not put into practice a lot here in the U.S. That's another part of the problem. But inside the private prisons, they actually have a financial motivation to make sure that those people are so bad that they come back into prison so that that private prison can make more money. Do you think they're going to do rehabilitation? or they're incentivized to create monsters that then are, again, released into the world, commit more crimes, and come back into their private prisons. More. The fear among law enforcement is, or at least should be, is that now we have dozens upon dozens, if not hundreds, who knows, maybe even thousands, of murderous chickens finally coming home to roost. Damn. And we're seeing it today, and as I said, unbelievably, some DAs are now saying, I got no interest in those chickens, and I'm running for the hills. I've seen this happen in other countries. You had lethal drug gangs in Mexico. This is a different situation, and it's now happening here. And these are Aryan Brotherhood guys, apparently, that are behind it. We got to get incredibly serious about this problem. By the way, one last final insult to injury. When President Obama first took office, there was a Homeland Security report that said white supremacist groups, huge problem for domestic terrorism. Right-wing talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh, the Fox News guys, went ballistic. How dare you? How dare you talk about right-wing groups and possibly white supremacists? No, you take that out of the report. And of course, what did President Obama do as usual? Yes, sir, absolutely, sir. We're down to one person in Department of Homeland Security because of an overreaction to what Fox News, Rush Limbaugh said. They knocked down the department to one person tracking white supremacist extremists that are doing this kind of violence. How's that working out for us?